Welcome back to the Dynasty Dingers podcast. We are coming at you on July 15th, post Major League Draft. So we are going to be covering the draft today. We're going to touch on the first, second round, some guys that we like, and overall philosophy on some of the kids that were taken later in the draft who may sign a bigger slot bonus or may choose college. We're going to get into the developmental aspects of that decision. Before we get into the show today, Doc, what's going on, dude?
Just living the dream, bro. Just, crushing life. Yeah, man, I was on the Prospects live stream on Monday, day 2. We brought Kevin Griffin. More than just Connor Griffin's father, a great man. He had some cool insight on some Mississippi kids throughout, kids who were taken throughout the draft, most notably the Parker twins, and we got to talk about that later. JoJo Parker going to the Blue Jays pretty high, which is nice to see. It was just a lot of fun. Shout out to the Prospects Live guys who went 2 straight days without sleep. They just, even when they weren't streaming, they were just in the zone. They wanted to stay in character. So I was told that they just pretended to stream while they were off air. Through it's not true. But I said
What is
it
that, like
so
method streaming? Is that the concept?
method streaming. What else happened? I talked to Max Clark about sandwiches. I didn't even tell you about this, Matt. I wanted to
No, you
save
did
it for the
not.
show. It's a surprise. I've been so busy. I've been barely on X. I think the last thing I did was talk to Max Clark and just not even elaborate. It was when I say talk to Max Clark, he was like, "Hey guys, Q&A. I went on a big road trip," and it was like, I was like, he probably asked this yesterday. He's not going to be. And I saw it was like 5 minutes. I'm like, there's still a chance. Let's throw it down. And we're both, well, he's from Indiana. I'm kind of from Indiana. I said Indiana's tenderloin sandwich. Thoughts? And he gives me two words, but high praise. He says, legendary pull.
He might be too young for
Pull.
my vocabulary. Pull, I'm
I was
guessing,
gonna
means
say, folks, that
solid.
means so. Like that's a great pull.
Okay.
You hear that a lot with that. That game, the trivia, the baseball trivia game.
Yeah,
What
those,
was
what
supposed
is
to?
it, the nine squares or 6
Yeah,
squares?
yeah.
It was big,
That's a
and it was
great
like big
pull.
during COVID, was it?
People would talk about pulls a lot there. I'm not sure if that's where it started, but yeah, kids will say that's a nice pull. Like you're pulling one out of the ether. You're pulling one out of that's like a dark horse question when everyone else is doing baseball talk, right? I'm talking about. Did you know that Indiana had a sandwich and it was a pork tenderloin sandwich and it's on a small bun and it sticks out the sides and it's stupid?
I did not know that.
We just lost all our listeners, maybe. But Max Clark knew what it was about, so hey. And yeah, he got 43 likes on that reply. I only got 4 for the questions. Bogus, man. People
Yeah,
must
you're
think
not
I'm
as
looking.
popular as Max Clark yet. Maybe one day. We're gonna get you
Isn't that
there.
ridiculous?
It's kind of ridiculous.
It's friggin'
Let's break into it though. We're gonna transition away from sandwiches. As interesting as that was. Now we just need to get Max on so we can actually have like a 15-minute conversation on sandwiches, because I would argue that still a brat is a sandwich. What do you think before we get into the
I mean,
players?
I'm unsubscribing and unfollowing Dynasty Dingers based on your opinion alone, but okay.
All right, so the first topic I wanted to talk about, we're not going to get into the shock and awe of these picks, because you and I had a conversation before we jumped on today, and I just said, who are any of us? That's the take I have this year. We don't have the Wyatt Langfords and the Paul Skeens at the top of this draft that, if a team were to pass on for any number of players that went outside the top 5, you'd shot at the top of a mountain. And yet we had some of those comments coming from the first and the second pick. First topic I want to get to, Doc, is the big time FYPD pitcher potential that we saw in the first 6 picks. We saw Bremner go 2, Anderson go 3, Doyle go 5, and Hernandez go 6. When you think of those names, who are you targeting right off the bat? And I know that it depends on where your team is and this and that, but like, what name really stands out as a guy that you're like, FYPD, I want him to anchor my fantasy team long term?
How many first overall picks haven't worked out? How many second and third and fourth? I mean, you definitely increase your odds the higher that someone was drafted, especially in the top of the first round. You have Matt Holliday, you have Jackson Holliday, now you have Ethan Holliday. I got one way to increase your odds of success at the major league level, and that's bloodlines. I'd go Ethan Holliday here every time. Park's obviously fantastic, and I was talking about this with Tim Kanak just now, but Ethan's probably more likely to provide early fantasy value than Jackson. They're going to rush him up because they're going to want to put butts in seats, but and so that could actually be a drawback. But here's the deal: he's bigger and stronger. I think that Jackson's profile allows for a more well-rounded 5 tool upside. Like he could, if anyone's going to be like a Bobby Witt, it's overused now, but like Jackson Holliday could be theoretically a Bobby Witt type, or maybe actually a better. Let's just say Bobby Witt type and be happy with that. Whereas Ethan Holliday, he's just too big. I would say. But that means coming up, whereas you have Jackson Holliday right now, he's just not, there's no standout tool, right? It's all just like good, kind of good. And then when this one's getting good, like he hits a power streak and then his average tanks and then the power disappears and now he's stealing bases. And it's just kind of a whack-a-mole of he's trying to figure out MLB level competition. Ethan Holliday could come up and have like a 220 batting average, but he'll probably smack bombs fairly consistency for a young guy. That's my guess. And so he'd be fantastic in terms of bats, as much as like Eli Willits could be like the most upside here. He's 17 years old. There's so many variables. And so Ethan Holliday would definitely be my number one FYPD pick right now. And I don't think it's going to take a lot for it to change. He's going to have a Charlie Condon kind of like debut for that to change.
Okay, so you have Ethan going 1. When you're thinking about 2, 3, and 4 of FYPD, right? Which is, maybe we just look back on this past year's draft. Again, a different class, but Connor was falling outside the top 5 even at times, right? And now you look back, you had the Nick Kurtz in there, you had Chase Burns. So like we had a lot of big time impact performances already in 2025, either at the major league level or the minor league level where we see Connor Griffin at. I don't necessarily know if we get that this year, but I think if we do get return, it's going to be from the pitcher. So are you comfortable at 2 taking a pitcher, or do you still lean bat at 2?
I gotta look more into Willis. I'm very transparent about this. I told the guys at Prospects Live, I'm like, I haven't done my homework. I'm busy. I got kids. I got a family, bro. I'm trying to do just trying to stay alive out here. Pretty hectic job. But I will in the next month or so. I'm probably going to have a pretty firm idea. I need to do more dives into Willits because I would off the top of my head, out of my gut, shooting from the hip. Any other metaphors or euphemisms? Eli Willits seems like my number 2, but I really, really like the pick I just like the player from what I'm seeing of Liam Doyle and Seth Hernandez for that matter. I'd say that Liam Doyle seems like an alpha dog, and I'm sorry that he went to the Cardinals. Now you can't like him that much, Matt, but he's 6'2", 220. He's a dog. I mean, I saw this clip of him. It was interesting. So I don't necessarily like knucklehead behavior. It wasn't knucklehead. I don't necessarily like mean-spirited behavior. It wasn't mean-spirited somehow. He's on the mound. It's a clip of him about to throw a pitch, and then the batter calls timeout. And just the way he said it, I'm going to swear, folks, don't do it very often. He said, he just kind of went, "You're fucked." Like he just said it. And like the way he did it, he was in such an alpha dog mode. It was not him trying to intimidate him. It wasn't like it just kind of came out. You could see it in the clip. And then he explained it in an interview later. He's like, yeah, that was kind of it is what it is, but I just believed it. I knew that the fact that he had to call a timeout, I don't really respect that. Like, just have the at bat with me. You're gonna and I just knew in that moment, I guess, that he was done. Like I was gonna strike him out. He was, and I did. And so he's, it was just like the way it happened. It was kind of like I've seen Paul Skeen say things like that, where somehow it's just so confident and more like an objective fact he's stating that it doesn't come across as arrogant somehow. And so Liam Doyle, a dog, going to be a problem for the Milwaukee Brewers. Sorry, Matt. Unfortunately, he's too sexy for the Cardinals. I don't know how they're going to handle this. They're going to have to tell him to pitch 10 miles per hour less, 10 miles per hour slower than his 100. And, just not be so sexy. He's got to be a pitch-to-contact boring guy if it's going to work out long-term. That's dry humor, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Doyle was great for the Cardinals. Like being able to get Doyle and having Doyle fall outside the top 4 was fantastic for the organization because they need a
He
number
could be up
1.
this year.
Yeah, and I mean, my concern with Doyle is that dominating fastball in college, it was unhittable. And he used it to his advantage. Sliders good in college, but that third pitch is what needs to be developed. And out of all the pitchers that have been taken, I have the most reliever concern for Doyle. I don't think, again, he's going to be flipped to a reliever before he's like 27, because why would you spend a 5th overall pick on a guy like that? But if he runs into trouble early, I believe it will be because he doesn't have that third pitch. Right now, his
He's got
splitter
a
is,
cutter and a splitter that grade 55 each. What do you think about that?
I don't buy it. I've watched him pitch numerous times this year, and it's fastball heavy. Like Burns is the same way, and Burns is able to do it. So I think Doyle can do it. It's just we're going to see Burns run into some trouble at times, and we're going to see Doyle run into some trouble at times. But at the same time, 100 is 100. We also see that with Burns, right? Like when you can overpower batters, you can also learn that third pitch at the major league level. I think the takeaway, essentially, I'm trying to wrap up for you here, is that I believe in Doyle long term. I think for the first couple of years he's at the pro level, we may see ups and downs from him. And that's fine. I just think Cade Anderson has more polish. I like where Cade Anderson landed. I don't know that there's a better organization than the Mariners to be drafted to with the pitching factory that they had. And it will be really interesting to follow both Cade Anderson and then Doyle. And we haven't even talked about Jamie Arnold yet, right? Falling to 10, another lefty, where like, what did the A's desperately need in this draft? They needed Jamie Arnold to fall. You know, going into Vegas now, presumably opening day, Jamie Arnold is on the mound. They may have their ace, and he may not be the ace that throws 100 miles an hour, but that's a pretty damn good third lefty off the board, and it fits their timeline. I thought that was a slam dunk pick. I thought the Cardinals getting Doyle was a slam dunk pick, and then I thought Cade Anderson falling to 3 was awesome. Like these teams that needed pitchers or create great pitchers from their minor league system, they just fell into this wealth because of the first selection and frankly the second selection. You know, and we haven't gotten to Bremner yet, but like I need to see some minor league numbers before I get excited. I have to think if an organization is going to take someone at that position and pass on Anderson, pass on Doyle, like you just described, there has to be something really special there. So a lot of great pitchers. That was my takeaway. I think I'm on board with what you said. I think Ethan Holliday 1-1 right now. But that kind of gets into the next piece I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know much about JoJo Parker. What do you know? What did Kevin pass along? Like, what kind of profile are we looking at here out of JoJo Parker?
Well, Mr. Griffin had a lot more to say, but typically, when you hear about JoJo and his twin brother Jacob, they come out of Mississippi. JoJo's got that all-around profile, flashing more polish, which is what made him this alluring first-round pick. Eventually going 8 to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays bringing another Southern boy up into the frigid. I didn't say wasteland. A winter wonderland. Yes,
Your homeland.
winter
So you
wasteland. Listen,
gotta
we're
be
not
careful.
anti-Canada here, folks. That'd be crazy. I'm from there. Why? Just because I would know how much of a wasteland. I'm kidding. No, we love you, Canadian fans. Look, I'm wearing red. Anyway, so yeah, nobody's watching us. They're all listening to our silky smooth voices. And JoJo Parker is 6'2", 200. You'd love to see that already as an 18-year-old. Interesting story about their father. Are you familiar with that story? I think I might have told you about it over the phone.
Not that I remember. Share it with me again and listen.
Okay. I talk too much. This is what happens, folks. So essentially, the Parker's father is in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed because he made a tackle playing football in college. Sorry, not even college. It was high school. Like 17 or something like that, 16 years old. Unbelievable. It's so freaky to hear that, right? Because I played football. Not even a big guy. Played football, made tackles. Just his cervical injury something happened, something weird, and it just a freak injury. Somehow he got married and had kids, and he's a judge now. He was a lawyer, then a judge in Mississippi. And so and he's got these stud kids. So like God is good, man. Unbelievable story. They talk about their father, obviously very fondly, and they're just like, hey, that's some adversity. We can overcome anything. You know, we're raised by this guy, and heck, Jacob Parker, he's not going to have that kind of adversity. You know, that puts it in perspective, right? So people were worried about Jacob because, you know, he didn't go in the first 2 or 3 rounds, which honestly he could have gone 2 or 3, 4 in those rounds, and it didn't work out. He got, you know, kind of a flyer in the 19th, I think, by Cleveland, something like that. But he's going to go play in Mississippi State. Yeah, you know, from what I understand, just very loosely talking, there were offers, didn't work out. I'm not going to get into it, but Jacob Parker betting on himself. Obviously, that's just an objective guess there, right? He's betting on himself. He sees his brother JoJo go in the top 10, and he thinks, I got more home run power than this kid. You know, come on. I'll grab my metal bat. I'll swing for the fences. We'll see. Maybe we see Jacob Parker in the first round next year, or not next year, but, you know, in the future. And maybe this pays off. But I'm sure, you know, we're out here like, what a tragedy that Jacob Parker didn't go. And it's like, well, I'm sure he sees his father in a dang wheelchair. And he says, yeah, I think I'll be all right.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because that gets into kind of the philosophy that we've talked about, which is we see the prep hitters develop differently, and that's just the perspective we have when they're taken in the draft out of high school. They sign, they enter the organization, they go through the developmental track, and we build a certain understanding that we like prep bats. We've had some great college bats come out, and I think a few good college bats this season taken out of the draft, but this will be a great opportunity for us to really see how twins, right? You brought that up. Twins develop differently. One going to Mississippi State potentially, while the other signs with the Blue Jays, drafted at the 8th overall position. And dude, I'm excited for Jacob. Like I thought about it before we talked, and while I was kind of keeping up with the draft, because every day I would check if him or Jack Bauer got taken out of Illinois. And it just seemed like, okay, now clearly the money hasn't been enough. They're going to go to college. And it's like, it's not poo-poo or like, oh, poor them. It's like, dang, these kids get to go to college. Like, they get to go to house parties. They get to play college baseball and be superstars on campus. Like, they get the opportunity where JoJo Parker's going straight into the minor leagues. There's no house parties or college atmosphere. Like, it's a different growth pattern. Now, sure, he gets the millions and millions of dollars with that, so that helps. But I'm kind of excited for Jacob. We're going to be rooting for him for sure. And I hope he does. I hope in 3 seasons or 2 seasons, depending on how that eligibility shakes out and when he's draft eligible again, we're talking about him as a top 10 pick, and, you know, he's justified. But what I also said to you was, unless he completely falls on his face, I don't expect him to fall out of the 3rd or 4th round coming out of college and makes his money and goes into, you know, pro ball. So I think it's interesting. I asked you about JoJo because I think this year's high school class is interesting, much like it was last year, where like now we know Connor Griffin's amazing, right? And like there were the tools attached to him to potentially tell us that this kid was going to be really special. I haven't heard the same things about JoJo Parker or Eli Willits. You know, heard that they're good ball players, but I feel like they are more in line with Bryce Rayner last year. That's kind of what I just am genuinely feeling. What are your thoughts on that?
Just because Willis went first overall, that's not going to necessarily be the case for him. JoJo Parker, it might be, but there's like a big chunk of, I mean, when you have a whole country who has one team, I feel like the Jays do, when they have something exciting, that they can get some good, kind of like the Boston media a little bit, not as powerful, but they can get some momentum behind their kids. But he may be sneaky. He's got a cool name too, JoJo Parker. It's a good name. I mean, there's the guys who we don't talk about. I don't know really anything about these guys at this point, comparatively speaking to our Prospects Live friends who are just geeks into this game. You know, Steele Hall, Billy Carlson, Gavin Feehan, Gavin Killen, Daniel Pierce. These are all shortstops, by the way. It's an incredible shortstop draft. I don't know anything about these guys, and frankly, people aren't really talking about them that much. And so it's like, there's going to be one of those guys who really starts flashing, right? There's going to be Ike Irish is a fantastic name. I looked into him a little bit going to the Orioles, probably more of an outfielder than a catcher. I like what I see there. But yeah, these are like nobody, especially with the prep guys, though. It's you're right that yeah, a lot of those guys I just named actually, not all of them, but most of the guys I named actually were prep bats, other than Killen. So you just don't know because it's a mystery box. There's no baseball reference page for them. There's no, there's no, and frankly, the stats you do have for these kids coming out of high school. Well, what does it mean? What does it mean when Connor Griffin has 90 stolen bases? Well, now we know, but it's sometimes there's been other guys who do things maybe not as crazy, but they flash really big in high school. But we never really hear high school stats being floated because they're not really serious for the most part, and not everyone comes through at the next level. So and then there's the factor I've mentioned before about college is like a little bit of a mini celebrity builder. You have this college World Series, you have these ESPN moments, right? You have these things where you can make a brand name for yourself at the college level way more than you can at a high school level. Unless, I mean, at what point can you do it? You have to be like a Bryce Harper. You have to, even Connor Griffin, I guess, Connor Griffin had one of those kinds of seasons, right? Had one of those years. And maybe if he hadn't got hurt, he would have been up there with the college guys, but the college bats, they can just, and the pitchers too, they can just shine. And maybe they can shine now more than ever with all the media available and all the cameras everywhere at all times, right?
Yeah, I think yes, but at the same time, within the minor leagues, like you have to have some kind of presence and you have to have some help. Corbin Carroll just absolutely obliterated a baseball. The NL is up 6-0, so this game's over. Minor league ball, you have to create that for yourself. Like Max.
No, I'm talking about before you're drafted, like college versus high school kids. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think Max Clark is an anomaly though, much like Bryce Harper was, right? Like, how many high school players did you know coming into the season? I knew of Max Clark. I knew of Bryce Harper. I knew of Hunter Green, right? Because Hunter Green was just this phenom hitting and pitching out of California. But it's harder, I feel like, to make yourself a star in high school than it is in college. In college, like you said, you have those big moment opportunities. You also have basically companies, as these schools are now with their collegiate sports, branding you to help their branding.
I think it's getting bigger. I think the college stars are getting bigger.
Yes, I agree
faster.
with that. The next name I wanted to throw at you was Baltimore Orioles first-round pick, 31st overall. Is the young kid from Hawaii who ended up going to Arkansas, Aloy. Well, the reason I wanted to bring him up was he had some incredible summer league numbers. In 2024, he had 21 games. He had 8 home runs and hit .309 with a .352 on base percentage. This kid won the Golden Spikes Award. So, right, that doesn't always equate to being the best player in the draft, and we can see that being taken 31st overall. But the Orioles seemed as though they had a pretty good draft. I like this kid. I feel like he's getting slept on. He swings and misses a lot from what the reports are and when you just generally look at his numbers. But 64 strikeouts in 65 games this year. So 64 strikeouts compared to 32 walks. Like, that's not what you want to see in college. But again, you and I have talked summer numbers before, and I think 8 home runs in 21 games with a wood bat, that's incredibly impressive. And I think the Orioles might have gotten a big steal here at 31. Did you have any feelings on this young kid, or are you kind of just waiting to see more information come out about these guys?
Yeah, there was some buzz coming up. There was buzz surrounding him before the draft. Seems like a pretty good value for him. It's interesting. What do we think about the Orioles, right? It used to be, a bet's going to the Orioles. That's going to be the organization that gets it out of them. And it's like, I don't know, right? So Holliday, I think, was going to be a stud no matter what, even if it's like, again, we're not just seeing a superstar immediately. Still really good for a kid. Samuel Basayo, definite credit. It's a great story, but he's also a physical freak, right? But yeah, I mean, clearly they can develop, but then you have a Kyle Stowers. gosh, they could have done a bit more there, right? And then you see I don't know, I don't know, man. It's just
I'm gonna bring.
what's gonna happen. Kobe Mayo will be the factor, I guess, because we were so confident in their ability. What were you saying?
Have you checked in on Vance Honeycutt all year?
Don't
Don't
I
do it.
haven't?
Don't do it. I want you to play the guessing game. Average over or under 200.
Oh wow, I would have guessed like 220.
So you're, but guess over or under 200.
I guess over, but you're making me feel like it's under.
OBP over or under 300.
Again, you're making me feel like it has to be under with a question like that. But I would have guessed like 223.01, which isn't
Okay.
good.
His numbers are very, very bad. In 262 at bats, he has 3 home runs, 23 stolen bases. So we're going to throw the kid some shine there, right? That's good. Batting 176 with a 299 on base percentage for an OPS of 574. This was the 22nd pick off the board in 2024. He may not, and this is at high A for a 22-year-old. This is to what you were just saying. We just assumed if the Orioles took you, they could either fix you or polish you, and you would be on your way. Jackson Holliday, Samuel Basallo, and Kobe Mayo in the lower minors, they might have just tricked us. Like, Stowers was never this good with this organization, and now he's potentially a rising star. And Norby's whatever, right? Like, I'm not going to give Norby the superstar status because he's not. He's a good third baseman on a bad team.
Yeah, I just don't know what is the legacy of this era of Orioles and of Baltimore Orioles baseball going to be. I don't think anyone really knows yet. Of course, we like to live in the moment, so people are saying Adley Rutschman was never good. I'm like, you guys are freaking jokesters, man. Maybe you are that guy, Matt. Maybe you're a jokester too. But
I think what you just brought up is really interesting because look at their draft. 2 catchers. Like, what is that? Tells
Ike
me
Irish
there.
probably not a catcher.
Okay, and that's fair, but has catching experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Caden Bonine, catcher. I don't think they extend Adley. At least not at this superstar extension that everyone expected coming into 2025, because Adley's had, at this point, dating back to last year, this time, he's had a pretty bad year on the calendar. Now, I'm not going to go as far. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, sorry, man. I feel like I'm cutting you off there, but I will add on to it. Maybe you can go on after this. Do you think that the reason Samuel Basallo's not up, because frankly they're 11 games out of the division lead, which is like not insurmountable at this point in the season. You got a whole half a season to go. If they bring him up right now, that's a spark, a sign to the organization. We're going to go for it. We're going to make one push for a wild card at the very least. We're going to try to scratch a claw for a wild card. We're in it this year. Or they're going to keep him down so that they can, and maybe you have thoughts on this, maybe they really do want him to be the catcher of the future because they're realizing we don't have the money for everyone. So if you can learn how to be a catcher beside him, that'd be fantastic. And then maybe to bring up these other kids who can help, pitch in with Basallo instead of, Basallo pitching in with Rutschman. What do you think about that?
If I'm the Orioles, I trade Adley Rutschman for pitching. That's what I do first and foremost. You have Kyle Bradish coming back. I have high hopes for him. I know you like Bradish as well, but coming off TJ, gonna need some time to knock off the rust. Perfect that they're 11 games out. You have Grayson Rodriguez, who's a number 1 and has never been healthy. So, can you rely on him being your number 1? I don't think so. You have Samuel Basallo, who, from what I've heard from chatter, is not defensively ready yet. And that's okay. Keep him down. Keep him down. Kobe Mayo needs time at the major league level to develop. We're seeing that with Joe Adell. Like, give the kids at bats. Like, do not bail on them if they've shown a track record of top tier, pedigrees. I trade Rutschman. I trade him for pitching because what we've seen from him isn't a superstar, and I still think teams will pay that superstar price because he is such a good presence and team leader, and he's a catcher at the position of need, right? And I fully go 2026 all in on Basayo, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, who is just going to continue to develop. We're going to sit here probably next year talking about Jackson Holliday hitting 300 with 15 home runs and how he's arguably challenging Kettle Marte for best second baseman. And then hopefully Kobe Mayo is playing first and hitting above 240. But you have a problem where if Mayo's good and Rutschman isn't traded and Basayo is good, but what is Basayo, just the DH now? And you're waiting for Adley to walk in free agency for one of these kids that they just drafted. Maybe it's Caden Bonine to come up. Like, I just think they have to inject pitching into this organization. We don't see it at the minor league levels. You have to trade somebody. It's not going to be Jackson. It's not going to be Gunnar. It's not going to be Samuel Basayo. The logical choice at this point is Adley Rutschman. And then you pray that Kyle Bradish is who he was before the injury, and you just hope you get one healthy season out of Grayson Rodriguez. And I think this is a World Series team, potentially in 2026, if they can just get one or two good pitchers. The problem is, like, who's trading for Rutschman? What are they giving up? There's a lot of pieces, but I trade Rutschman. I keep Basayo down all of 2025.
Well, people are trading for Rutschman. Remember, it's not fantasy baseball; it's real baseball, and Adley's a solid guy, and he can call a game back there. Again, is he the sexiest catcher of all time, like Agustin Ramirez? Of course not. But no, he's well-rounded and he's solid. Like, this is probably still a guy who's going to give you 270, 350 kind of deals, right? Like, it's a really good presence. Probably going to blast over 20 home runs. I know his savant's not always super sexy. He's not the fastest bat speed, but he gets the job done. He's hurt right now. I don't like taking guys down when they're hurt. But I agree with you. I actually do think that's probably the move, is trading Adley Rutschman for pitching. But I think to dismiss like what he could get, I think Adley Rutschman is still highly valued in Major League Baseball. And I mean, I traded him away in fantasy baseball this last offseason for a haul in one of my leagues, and you were in that league, I believe. And I got a whole bunch of fun prospects. So
yeah, I moved him.
That's what I was after.
I guess I'm not like poo-pooing the return he could get. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's hard to think in the major leagues right now, like, who needs a catcher, right? We could go through the teams and make a segment over this and put together some packages. But you're right. Like, Adley Rutschman, in my opinion, is a great trade chip. I just don't know in my brain what that return looks like, right? Like
Nathan Eovaldi.
No, but you need to get something. You can't get like a Crochet return because there is no current Crochet, right? But trying to find a pitcher that would fall into that number 2 role, I think, is what I'm really going to here. And going organizationally, like, Cubs could use that. They don't have that number 2 pitcher, nor would they be giving up that number 2 pitcher. It's hard because with Rutschman's contract, you would assume you trade him to a contender because he's getting closer to free agency. And would a contender really give up a number 2 for Adley Rutschman? I don't think so, because that's what.
What about Nathan Eovaldi?
He's 36.
Is he?
Yeah, he's not young, dude. Like, that's you got to get a guy. You look him up.
35. He's older than I thought.
Yeah. So, like, DeGrom, if Texas were to eat a hefty amount of that contract, I make that deal. Because let's just say DeGrom has 2.5 solid seasons left. Let's even go with 1.5 solid seasons left. So you get a really good DeGrom for this year. You get a really good DeGrom for 2026. You lead your rotation with DeGrom into Grayson Rodriguez, into Kyle Bradish, with Samuel Basayo behind the plate. Felix Bautista closing. Bring in a really good setup man in free agency. Sure up the back end of that rotation. I think you have a World Series contender in Baltimore in 2026. Like, they cannot let this window slam shut where they're thinking of, well, it's the Caden Bonine era. Maybe we'll win a championship with Caden Bonine. Like, that cannot happen. And, Gunner's contract's going to come up sooner than we think. Jackson's contract's going to come up sooner than we think. I know we're 5 or 6 years away from both of those potentially entering free agency, but they can't miss this window. And I think trading Adley for a DeGrom is a great opportunity if money works.
I like that too.
All right, let's talk about Jace LaViolette. Are you familiar with Jace LaViolette going to Cleveland?
Laviolette.
Love the name, right? Like, but numbers in 2025 were not good. I've seen a few people talk about LaViolette in comparison to Nick Kurtz and, not being pitched to and this or that. He's not Nick Kurtz. But I like the fit in Cleveland, a contact-oriented team that's developed contact hitters, taking a big-time power bat, hopefully improving the hit tool. Where do you think he falls in FYPD, and where would you be comfortable taking a flyer on a big power hitter like this?
Laviolette. Saying it weird. 6'6", 230, lefty. It's a fun fit, right? So it's a guy with hit tool concerns, big power. Going to Cleveland, it's like, okay, usually the more boring hitters going there. I don't like what they've done with Kyle Manzardo, which is so weird because he was like a guy. I don't know what to think of Kyle Manzardo. I still like, my gut says I like him still. I don't know what's going on. He was a guy who always had a really like a Vinny P kind of approach in the minors. And then he came up and now he's just like, is he kind of like this? He's just hacking for the fences. I don't know what's going on. It's just not really, he's not doing it so far. And then hot start to the year. Remember he was in that conversation with Soderstrom and Torkelson and Manzardo. And now it's like, yeah, one of these is not like the other. Laviolette, we'll see what happens, but and theoretically, the Guardians, Cleveland organization, they're gonna kind of maybe tell him to stop swinging completely crazy out of his shoes every time. Maybe they can bump that hit tool up so he can hit at least 220 and take a walk.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting. They took another big time power bat in the third. You're going to have to give me a moment as I scroll because I can't seem to find him. So we'll come back to him. Another name in the third that I really, really liked was the Rockies. They went and took Max Blue. That might be the poor pronunciation. It's Belyu. Max Blue was big-time prep player coming out of Texas, and he's going to join former Texas Longhorn teammate, actually, which is really fun, Jared Thomas, who's in the Rockies organization. And I like Blue a lot. Heard a lot of great things. I listened to the Baseball America shows a lot, and they raved about Blue all season. I think it's going to be a really fun second or third round FYPD pick. Gap power, 60 grade arm, so we have a good defender, 50 run, like just a baseball player. And the Rockies, as you talked about Ethan Holliday, I think that park plays up for a lot of these kids, and I like having a collegiate bat being taken because there isn't as much development that the organization needs to do. I think he could be a really fast riser. I think he could be a name jumping into top 100s maybe this time next year. But a lot of these college hitters, from the kid the Brewers took from Tennessee, the kid the Cubs took as well, who I really like, Ethan Conway or Conroy, I think can provide Ethan Conrad out of Wake Forest, can provide some really interesting first round player picks this year. Do you have any feelings on Ethan Conrad coming out of Wake Forest and that really bad injury he had?
Nope.
I think that's okay. I mean, we're talking about these guys. I think he could be really dangerous and really fast. I don't know if he's fully recovered from the injury or if he's going to play it all this year, but I think the Cubs getting him, I think at 18 is what it was a pretty big steal. Were there any other names in the first round that caught your attention that you were like, I like that, or I'm going to be monitoring that situation?
Yeah. And folks, don't worry. I'm going to, cram for the exam for the FYPDs, and I'm going to, in like a week or two, maybe even, I will have extremely strong opinions on these players, calling out the guys you need to go with, because the money is going to be telling me where to look, right? A lot of these prep guys, especially, that's where I like to dig in more and see what was overslot, what these overslot agreements were. And then there's just too many players, I'm going to say it how it is, folks. I pretty much every analyst, every guru will kind of go out of their way to say every single player, blah, 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 fluff, fluff, fluff. They're going to be so good at this. They have this tool. It's so exciting. Very rare you see a negative pre-draft write-up. Now, of course, once a player starts scuffling in the pros and the minor leagues, then they write them off too quick sometimes. But, I like to kind of narrow the field any way I can. And again, so I'm excited to see what the money's going to look like. In terms of just what I knew before the draft, what I've seen since the draft, I was drawn to Schoolcraft. I always liked his name, which is a great start. And then he ends up going to a great organization, San Diego Padres. He's 6'8". He is, was he still 18? 6'8", 229 pounds. He's a teenager, and he's going to be. He plays both ways in theory. He's probably going to be a pitcher. So if you're a pitcher in that organization, it's a great landing spot for Mr. Schoolcraft. Definitely would be following him if you're looking for some upside guys. Again, a prep arm. So, there could be, if he didn't have such a cool name, you'd probably get a discount on him. I'll probably end up hyping him up to a point where you might not get that much value. I'm not sure how impactful I am, but maybe I can cause a ripple effect. So that's someone I really like. Heard some good things about the pair that the Royals went with. The Royals have 2 picks in the first round. They had what's a PPI pick? Gosh, I know the comp picks are. What is a PPI specific kind of comp pick? What does that mean? Player incentive, right?
Yeah, I want to say it's player incentive.
What would they have gotten from that? They didn't have a.
I wanted to say the only
PPI
player incentive
Royals
that we
pick.
saw this year was
Bobby Witt Jr. earned the Royals' draft pick. How? This is fascinating, folks. We're behind. Okay, so because he was a nominee for the All-Star voting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm confused every year at how the bonus comp picks get handed out. It's confusing because Corbin Carroll won the Diamondbacks last year, the pick for winning Rookie of the Year, right?
And I get the rookie stuff, folks. Just a heads up, I get the rookie part. It's just funny that
maybe homegrown talent. Okay.
If a player who was rated as a preseason top 100 prospect by Pipeline Baseball America, ESPN, or Dynasty Dingers, wow, I can't believe we're in there.
We made it.
And was on his team's opening day roster, goes on to win the Rookie of the Year award or place in the top 3 in MVP or Cy Young voting. That's what it is then. Prior to qualifying for arbitration, the club is awarded a prospect promotion after the first round. So Julio got the Mariners one in 2022. It's the earliest PPI pick to date. Okay, cool. Anyway, so they got Sean Gamble, which is a real gamble of a pick, and Josh Hammond. So a couple of bats, and their arms are coming along really great. So I think that makes sense. I don't really know too much about them, but hey, at least you got a little bit of a learning experience on why the Royals got that. Because I was trying to think, they didn't have any really big rookies last year. So now it was Bobby Witt's MVP.
We're going to market ourselves as an educational podcast now. Doc, a name I'm really excited about is Ethan Petry. He's a guy coming into 2025 that I had a lot of excitement for. Didn't have a good season. Had a shoulder injury, I guess. Found it out during the draft because I haven't really kept up with him this year. But I mentioned summer league numbers earlier, and I'm going to read you these numbers because this is just ridiculous. 31 games, 11 home runs, 360 average, 480 on base percentage with a 1240 OPS. That's pretty insane. Now, outfield first base is what he's listed at when the Nationals took him. I like him first round at FYPD. I know first basemen aren't loved in FYPD, but we've seen what Nick Kurtz has done, and I just feel like Petry's injury really held him back. 44 total games this season at South Carolina, only 10 home runs, struck out 33 times to 26 walks, so it's not egregious. Batted 321 with a 437 on base percentage. So the on base percentage was still there. We need to see that average up a little bit more. I think Petrie could come out, get a high A assignment, be in double A this time next season. And I do. I thought of all the college bats taken post first round, I think Petrie is the guy. It all comes back to his health. And he's 21. He'll turn 22 next June. So you still have a younger college bat and Petrie. I just have a feeling that barring health, we have a very, very good player here. And it helps. It helps for the Nationals draft. And then I'm going to throw one more at you. This was a third rounder for the Nationals. And I think we're going to see big time slot money here. They referenced him on a few publications and streams as the Travis Sikora of the draft, but that's just unfair. Landon Harmon, taken third round by the Nationals, 6'5", 190, 65 grade fastball, 55 slider, 45 changeup. So we're talking about somebody that needs to learn the third pitch. I think we could see some really great stuff out of Landon Harmon if they sign him. But I also feel like when we check back in a few weeks and we go over those higher bonus allocations, this will be a kid that gets our eyes. Any thoughts on those two?
First of all, it's Sikora and it's Petrie probably. That's my thoughts. Yeah, Petrie. It's interesting. I was just talking about how people don't usually. Usually there's a lot of fluff pieces in these write-ups on prospects, but they did say plus raw power, massive strength. But then at the end, they did say it's just kind of snarky here. Not snarky, but it's
throw it.
It's funny. With his power over hit profile and lack of athleticism, Petrie draws comparisons to Pete Alonso (parentheses with less bat speed) on the high end, and Seth Beer (parentheses with less plate discipline) on the low end.
What publication is this? Pipeline.
This is MLB Pipeline. Yeah, that's a good one. I remember Dakota Jordan last year. They were like, this guy sucks. I was like, whoa, I'm staying clear of this guy. They don't usually go that hardcore. And so Harmon, it's got a good frame. They're not committed to Mississippi State.
That was the other. Yeah, that was the other one that they. I think.
So we could ask Mr. Griffin about him. He has some opinions on other guys.
Where did Harmon grow up?
East Union, Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah. So Kevin probably saw him then.
Maybe I had some thoughts on a few of these guys during the Prospects live stream. But yeah, no. So I don't really have too many opinions with them. I mean, Nationals are doing some things right. I will say, Petrie. I have been forced to think about some of these players a bit more because the CBS league I'm in, which I really pay a lot of attention to. It's me shaking my head for the listeners. Ethan Petrie, these kind of names, they did pop up. People have been making ads, and so late to the punch. I wanted to.
What do you mean making ads? You guys don't do a FYPD?
Kind of, not really. No, it's universal. It's an open universe.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I wanted to take Ava Arquette off waivers, free agency at one point, and Ross was like, no. I was like, okay. And then he went 7th overall, so that would have probably been good. But then he wanted us to pick up Nolan Schubert, who went like 5th round.
So now Schubert is the next name on the Guardians that I was hunting for 3rd round.
Now I signed off. Listen, go on.
He has a lot of concerns, but they took Laviolette. Is that how we're pronouncing it?
Laviolette.
I can't say that. I don't think my tongue works that way. Okay, so they took him, and they took Nolan. Both similar players. I mean, big time power. I'm fascinated at what Cleveland does with both of these guys. 19 home runs for Nolan at Oklahoma State. Hit 300. Had a 436 on base percentage. So like he was clearly like feared, but Schubert is going to be an interesting one. And you mentioned it. He fell. I mean, coming into 2025, I have him in an open universe because he just mashed last season. I mean, his numbers at 20 years old, 49 games, 23 home runs. He hit 370 with a 513 on base percentage. Had a 1351 OPS. Definitely fell off. I mean, he hit 1,066 OPS this season, but two guys that have contact concerns, and we'll see what they can do. So I'm guessing you're still rostering him in that TBS league, or did you let him go?
I probably held on to him. I did cut Henry Ford, who went back to college. He actually transferred from Virginia to somewhere I forget. I think Tennessee.
Yeah, he stuck around a
Anyway,
while in this draft, so he didn't end up getting taken.
It doesn't. I mean, I know he's going back. I'm pretty confident he said he was going back before the draft, so I don't know why he would have been taken. No, he wasn't taken. So I mean, sometimes they'll just throw a flyer on these guys like they did with Jacob Parker. But yeah, no, Henry Ford. Henry Ford's kind of interesting. I think he could be like maybe a Nolan Shanuel type or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee replaces Fisher, who Milwaukee took. Bringing this kid in probably will just continue churning that pipeline there. Any other names that we should chat about before we say goodbye today?
Oh man, I'm freaking exhausted. Sorry, man. Did this a little bit late. I think I started off hot. Now I'm just not. First this guy was hot. Now he's not. Say it twice. It gets funnier. So yeah, no, man. I have less opinions now than I will in the future. But my opinions, when I decide upon them, folks, they will become the greatest opinions you've ever heard, and they will. I don't know if I've been wrong before, but we're seeing some of the roosters coming home to roost, and they are, Travis Sikora, Thomas White, Kevin McGonigal, some of these guys I had in my top 100, and then top 50, and then like I had them always higher. Augustin Ramirez, I've kind of been good with getting ahead of players kind of before they really popped. So we'll see if I can find that again this time. And last year I would say Caleb Bonham was a big one. Luke Dickerson, not having as much of an explosive prospect stock, but yeah, I'm excited to dig in, see if I can get lucky, or maybe if I can notice some trends or some facts, because sometimes you got to dig deep. Like, why is Caleb Bonham not being hyped? Okay, well, he's a White Sox, and he went to school in Michigan, so he just didn't have that same exposure. Thomas White, had COVID shenanigans. So it's just it's Callan Moss COVID shenanigans, and so we'll see if we can dig up any kind of some guy who got injured, but it was a freak injury, so we're not really concerned about it happening again. And of course, money talks. I'm excited to see what happens.
Last one I wanted to throw at you, because you had posted about him, if I am correct, a few days ago, maybe a week ago. Devin Taylor, Indiana, taken by the Athletics in the second round. I thought it was a fantastic pick. I thought, for even the concerns that people had for him, landing at 48th overall in what should be a good environment to hit. Was that something that you thought was interesting? Do you like the landing spot and overall, Devin Taylor? Like, what are your thoughts coming out of Indiana?
I don't know too much about him, but so the Prospects Live guys were loving it. They're saying he was the steal of the draft, and so yeah, maybe if I was still in Indiana this past year, I would have been more hyped up about it coming into it. But just been so busy with everything else that I'm giving you this terrible analysis. At least it's in the 53rd.
We have plenty of time.
Minute. Yeah.
We have plenty of time to break these guys down before FYPD.
But anyone who's from Indiana automatically gets a doc bump. We'll see. We'll see if I can fully buy in.
That's going to do it for us today. Doc, why don't you take us out?
You huckleberry.
See you guys next week.